She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cock-a-crow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bag, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck-a-quack. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bag, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck-a-quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day a back down, me now a come home. The naga jackass yard for fetchy load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come. Sun a go down but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fisherman, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokonani. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Bangameri. Listen to this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. Them children glad when the weekend come. Out in the yard, them all gather round. Some a play catcher, some making house from straw. Two who come later, a grandma or grandpa. All a sit down just a wait. Moonlight so bright, it's just the right time to listen story or to say a little nursery rhyme. Grandpa voice a echo in the night as he tell some picnic a there with fright. Oh Ligan, Mungeza, Massa Kurma Burra Nancy, even Watamuma. Oh Ligan, Mungeza, Massa Kurma Burra Nancy, even Watamuma. Yeah man, that's the true story that tell the people about life in the country, life in the country.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
get paid. I want to play. The vibes is right. I wanna hug up tight. No time to waste. I wanna work my ways. So come on, babes. Give me a taste. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body.
All right, hey, guess what? Don't panic. I'm here tonight. It's just about 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. My name is Mark Benschop, right? And we are going to rock and roll for 1 hour. 1 hour. After that, I'm not going a minute over this hour at all because I got business to take care of this evening. Yeah, okay, well, look, if we go over, we go over. Around 9:30, I'll be joined by a special guest. So do share the link. I'm not going to tell you who that special guest is as yet. Let me get warmed up a little because I have a lot of things I want to talk with you guys tonight about, right? Lots and lots of things. And we know that the regime, the installed regime, several things. They don't like to be described as installed regime. They don't like to be described as racist. They don't like to be described as corrupt. They just don't like those descriptions, right? And we all know the reason why, because I'll tell you guys, well, the truth hurts. And because it hurts them, they are jittery whenever people describe them as racist, whenever people describe them as corrupt, as vindictive. They go after political opponents and they persecute political opponents. You all know what I mean by that, right? But political opponents are growing what they ought to be growing, especially this current crop. And let us hope that they grow a sufficient big crop to confront the installed regime by every and any legal means necessary. All right, just thought I'd get that out of the way because, you know, when you talk about confront, when you use the term fight, when you use the term whatever it is, they tend to turn it around on you. And you know they're good because they like that thing to turn around, right? All right, so we know they're listening. We at 107.1 FM, we don't care whether they listen. We don't care what they do, but we appreciate the fact that they take time out to sit and listen to what we have to say in terms of telling the world the truth about what is happening in beautiful Guyana. And we do that without any fear, none whatsoever. All right, I listened to the Honorable MP, Dinesh Jaiprashad, and good job, good work, MP Dinesh Jaiprashad, and the other MP, his colleague Nima, representing the people out there in Mocha, Arcadia. I must say that I was actually impressed with the presentation. I was impressed with the young lady. Seemed to be very vibrant, very vocal, aggressive. Hands the issues. She knows what needs to be done. And she's inviting you guys tomorrow, midday tomorrow, at the Square of the Revolution. They're out there every Wednesday. But in my opinion, I just feel they should be out there every single day. But that's just my opinion, right? And these days, sometimes when you give your opinion, some people get vexed. But it is, as Lemon was saying, it is what it is, right? We've got to continue doing what we do right here on 107.1 FM. All right, so let's get back. Good evening to all of you, every single one of you. Let me see some of your comments. We get first person I run into is Lily Goliva. Guyanese get all sort of names, man. Goliva. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at your name, man. But good to see you on the show. One of the things that I stopped doing is because I myself have a weird last name, Bench. People do all sorts of things with my last name, Benschop, and I should be the last person to be laughing at people's last name. But I want you, Lily, to know that I'm not laughing at your last name at all. I'm just not laughing at it. I'm not, right? I'm not. I was watching a clip. Some folks were circulating a clip with an interview that Norman Brung was doing. I believe his show is called Eyes on the Diaspora or something. Correct me. And if Norman is watching, I'm sorry. I just don't remember. I know it has something to do with the diaspora or something. And he had an interesting guest on, Mr. Philip Bino. Mr. Philip Bino. Yes, he had Mr. Philip Bino on. And sorry about that. I just changed that screen for a quick second. My eyes are running water. So I must apologize for that. Guess it's old age, right? Please do forgive me, guys. These sort of things, I don't do my show like this. I like to come on looking all nice, sweet and sharp. But here it is. I got caught off guard with my eyes. And I got to present myself properly. Well, good. Here it is. I am back with you. And so I watched a clip that is circulating. And you guys know Philip Bino and I, we were supposed to have attended the same university, Harvard University. And you guys know where Harvard University is located, right? The only thing is Bino couldn't be seen on the day of school. And the headmistress was actually, or claimed to have been looking for Bino. You guys know the headmistress, right? And they couldn't find Bino. And so I ended up spending over 5 years at Harvard University, Kemp Street, Harvard University. But anyways, so Bino was on Norman Brung's program, and Bino couldn't take it any longer, man. I don't know. Bino couldn't take it. He flipped out on Norman Brung. But he said something to Norman, and this is, he said, Norman, you got to give people an opportunity to talk. You got to give your guests an opportunity to talk, right? Which is true. And to some extent, without not wanting to knock at Norman, I will cut Bino some slacks, because it appears that Norman was attempting to push a lot of things in Bino's mouth. Words, that is, right? And Bino wasn't having it. At least I smiled during the course of the day. But also, Bino has made some valid points in his observations of things within his party, that is, the PNC. And I kind of said to myself, there are quite a lot of things that I agree with Philip Bino on. I actually kind of smiled when I said, this makes sense. That makes sense. A heck of a lot of things make sense. All right, Filipino. Next time you're on a show, you just have to calm down a bit. But it was fun watching you behave um, like Filipino, young Filipino. All right, let's move on. I noticed a lot of you are laughing. It was just funny. It was really, really funny. Coming up at 9:30, I have J.R. Crawford, our executive producer, just messaged me to say that J.R. Crawford is going to be on with us for 9:30 at 9:30. Now let's get back to the regime, the PPP regime. They love to jump to defend themselves in saying that they are not racist. Of course, they will say that. You don't expect them to say that they are racist, right? But the truth of the matter is, based on the evidence, it points in that direction that they are racist, that Guyana has a racist government. And we'll just stick to that topic for a minute. Racist government. And now, some of those supporters of the PPP may ask, well, where is the evidence? If you have a person of African descent as the prime minister, well, sitting there as the prime minister, and therefore, how could this installed regime be racist? Well, of course, there are window dressings. They put people there just to make it appear as though they are not racist. The truth of the matter is, I am almost certain that Mark Phillips does not have any power of his own that he can go out, maybe save and except buy lunch and a little food and here and there for his staff and whatever, but no major decisions, absolutely none. And maybe they can prove me wrong, but absolutely none at all that he can make. And so he has basically been placed there as a figure, what is it you call it, a window dresser, for window dressing purpose. That's what he has been put there. And the guy who did that quite skillfully for many years, Sam Hines, he currently sits in Washington, D.C. right now as Guyana's ambassador to the United States of America. So far, we haven't heard anything that he has done, nothing at all, save and except that I am almost certain that Sam Hines, in his capacity as ambassador, would have already sent a letter off to Congressman Hakeem Jeffries' office requesting a meeting. And now you've got to be able to read these PACUs, these PPP PACUs. Now, interestingly, based on my source, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Utah, along with Bharat Jagdeo, according to my source, they are preparing to head to Florida this weekend. Now, once Sam Hines sends that letter off to Hakeem Jeffries' office, he will be requesting a meeting. I can tell you guys this. I can put my head on the block that they have already requested a meeting between the Foreign Affairs Minister of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo, and Sam Hines, who sits in Washington as Guyana's ambassador to the United States of America. So don't be surprised if you hear of an attempt to have a meeting or a meeting took place. Don't be surprised at that. Now, some others might jump and say the congressman never, and this would never. Look, we're talking about the U.S. government here. And Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is part of the U.S. government. And I'm not going to say much more on that. All I can say, I have my opinion. I don't believe that Congressman Hakeem Jeffries should meet with those vagabonds. I just don't believe that. But that is just my opinion. I am just a talk show host. I don't pretend to be anything other than a talk show host and a former activist who is in semi-retirement. That is all. So I can offer my opinion to say, oh, Hakeem Jeffries should not meet with them. I do believe that he should not meet with them. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if they do have a meeting. Because look at what is happening. Barra Jagdeo and Utah may very well be in Florida this weekend. I say no more. In Florida, they may set up meetings with some other high-profile congressman or congresswoman or whatever the case may be. But as a political opponent, and talking directly to some of you MPs and so forth, you've got to be able to sit down and study your opponents. This is not a wild game. This is not about showcasing. This is not about selfies. This is not about sounding good and attempting to look good. This is all about standing up and confronting your opponent, your political opponent. That needs to be done. And that is the only way you will, or one of the ways you will be effective. Okay? I'm just giving you guys these free pointers about how to confront your opponent, especially when you're on the ground. You know, it's like seeing a bunch of tigers. You can have a bow and arrow from afar and shoot those tigers. But it's different. It's a different battle when you're on the ground with those tigers and you have to walk away alive. You have to survive. Consider yourselves on the ground in Guyana, on the battlefield, as I usually say, as if you were in the forest surrounded by a bunch of tigers and you have to survive. It's a different ball game altogether on the ground. That's all I'm saying. It's a different ball game. Some of us can be afar and talk sweet talks and all sorts of things, but it's different on the ground. I've been there, done that. It isn't on the ground. Now let's get back to the racist PPP regime. How many of you guys, and I'm going to look at some of your comments. How many of you guys know this guy? How many of you guys know that gentleman that is on the screen right now? I'm looking at some of your comments. You know, I'm looking at some of your comments. All right? To see whether you know who this individual is. All right. Somebody, Vanessa Hackett, probably a country girl. I don't know him. Right? Man, I got some listeners out of the world, man. I don't know him. Just Annette Ferguson, Bret Hart. You're absolutely wrong, Honorable Annette Ferguson. Keith Michael Austin. You will get yourself a plate of cook-up whenever I see you. I think you are the Keith Michael Austin, formerly of GBC, the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. Let me see what Keith Michael Austin is saying here again. Good evening to you, Keith. Good evening. Let me see. I haven't seen Keith. I think this is the Keith here, Keith Michael Austin. That's the Keith that was at GBC years before. I spent a short time there at the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation, but Keith was there long before. Good evening to you, Keith, and I'm glad that you have acknowledged that it is you, Keith, and I salute you for your service there at the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. Esther Hercules, you too late. Keith Michael Austin already said it. Right? But you guys do know that Mr. Bullen arrived in Guyana sometime mid-August 2003. And Mr. Bullen made history. I'm going to watch at some of your comments before we get to J.R. Crawford. Why Bullen made history in Guyana? Carlton Popo Anthony and others. Why Mr. Bullen, Roland W. Bullen, why is it that I'm saying that he has made history in Guyana? Can somebody tell me why? I'll give you guys 30 seconds to tell me why before I get into the ricketics, so to speak. I'm waiting for your comments. Chad August, you have a point on something. And I want to take this evening for a couple of minutes to acknowledge and participate with you guys. Now that we have gotten this established, that is Mr. Bullen. Viola Dufuux. Good evening. Yes, it's a former U.S. ambassador. Yes, we know that. One was instrumental in having Roger Khan cornered Roger Khan. Yes, we all know that. Mario Harris seems to be correct. The first U.S. ambassador to Guyana that is of African descent. Of course, he is originally from Grenada, but he has worked in the U.S. State Department for so many years. So many years. Let me just make it clear to some of you guys here, right? That we want to keep this. We don't want our platform to be like others in terms of. I've noticed a comment, by Malcolm Luther. Whilst people are entitled to free speech and so forth, let us try to keep it clean as possible, right? I know Mr. Bullen, not personally. I met him maybe once or twice after his sojourn to Guyana. He seemed to be a very pleasant man. So let us not get to the disrespectful form of individuals, especially you can deal with the catfish regime folks. But back to Mr. Bullen. Yes, he was the form. That's okay, Malcolm Luther. That's okay, man. It happens. We sometimes get carried away, all of us. But thank you, as always, for tuning in, Malcolm. I know you mean well. But Mr. Bullen became the ambassador officially in Guyana on August 14th, 2003. August 14th, 2003. And that was the time with the Phantom Squad and the Death Squads and all these different things in Guyana. And this guy that's sitting there on the screen, Ambassador Bullen, did an excellent job. But do you know, Carlton Popo, you guys are too bright, man. One of these days, all of you come and host this show. And I say this with the best of intention, right? That is why we're all having a conversation tonight with you guys. Mr. Bullen, I'll remove him from the page, right? Ambassador Bullen confronted the ills of the PPP regime. And first and foremost, they didn't like him in Guyana. You know why they didn't like him? Because the PPP didn't like him. He wasn't doing the things that they wanted him to do. He wasn't going around the place drinking rum and hanging out with the usual suspects. He had a different agenda. He was there to do his job and do it quite objectively. And because of that, he was threatened by members of the Phantom Squad and drug lords and all these things. His life was threatened. We didn't hear the PPP jumped out, Jack Dale and his cabal. We didn't hear them jump out to defend Mr. Bullen. We didn't hear that they feel that he should be allowed to do his job. They didn't go after the drug lords who were threatening Mr. Bullen and his family and so forth and so on. No, they didn't do that. In fact, they were happy. They were pleased. They were rejoicing during this time because they themselves in the PPP wanted this man, Roland Bullen, to be removed. And so, after he was threatened, he left Guyana. Then in 2006, August 26, another ambassador arrived. His name, David Robinson, Caucasian, David Robinson. He served his time, so to speak. Usually it's 3 years. He served his time, and then he left. And then after he left, it wasn't about, I believe, 2 years after, because the PPP was mischievous. All they wanted was basically an ambassador who could do their biddings. It's a fact. We cannot run away from that. It is a fact. And for 2 years, from when Mr. David Robinson left, Guyana never had an ambassador. Never had another ambassador. Now let me take this back. Let me take this back. Sorry. I'm getting a bit of history. After Mr. David Robinson came another man. After David Robinson came another man. This man. Look at him. You see? Look at this guy. This was the first black U.S. ambassador to Guyana. And then after him, there was a white ambassador. But after that white ambassador, look what happened again to Guyana. Look what the U.S. government did. Boom. In the PPP's face. They sent another black ambassador to the United States of America. Right? Another black ambassador. Let me see you guys. I have JR with us, but let me see if you guys know who this gentleman is. What's his name? Let me see if Keith Michael Austin is going to get this again. You know, VMAC and others talking about the exposure of Thomas Carroll. That was a different time. That was a different ambassador. Those were different people during that time. But this ambassador here, this ambassador, his name, because of time, I will just move on. His name is, I'll give you guys 2 more seconds to see if you recognize and remember. Okay, his name is John Melvin Jones. John Jones, another black ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Guyana. Another one, right? And he arrived on July 21st, 2008. July 21st, 2008. And so again, the PPPC never liked this guy. Brilliant guy, fair guy. But the PPP never liked this guy because they couldn't take him around Kaitor Falls, Bottom House, drink little rum, eat little guana, duck curry, or whatever. They couldn't do that to this guy. So they were vexed. They were upset. They were pissed off. If they could have probably taken Gramazone or whatever, they probably would have. All these sort of things. I don't know, who is Unruly Pat? She says Hakeem Jerry. Hakeem Jerry. All right. I hope Unruly Pat is not a throw, but we're going to keep an eye on her. So this guy, the PPP didn't like him. And so they criticized him and all these sort of things. So don't worry with this thing that they're playing all nicey and all sweetie that they're there to protect U.S. ambassadors, like what they're doing to Sarah Ann Lynch right now, right? The U.S. ambassador there. Every single, that's their blue-eyed girl. They love her. They worship her. Every step she makes, they worship it. So don't worry with them as though they're concerned because Congressman Hakeem Jeffries called for her removal, that they're jumping to defend her. Again, the reason why I'm bringing these things up is that they have never jumped to defend. They have never jumped to defend. I see we have Crawford falling asleep. Wake up, Mr. Crawford. They have never jumped to defend these guys. In fact, they wanted these guys out of Guyana, these honorable ambassadors out of Guyana, kick them out of Guyana. And then you guys remember, I have noticed that our producer didn't put the photograph of Mr. Brent Hart, who came to Guyana with his beautiful wife, Saskia, who happens to be a beautiful person. I believe she is Trinidadian descent. Black woman, yes, beautiful. Brent Hart, white, has a black wife in Guyana. The PPP was very uncomfortable with him. He is the guy, Satira Gal, went out there at his house and disrespected the man. They didn't want him in Guyana. They booed him. They disrespected him. They did all sorts of things. None of them went to defend him. Absolutely none. Not Jack Deere, not Ramotar, not Luncheon. None of them. They wanted him out because he was not hanging with those usual suspects. His wife had new friends. Many of you don't know they have an ambassador wives club in Guyana. So as soon as these new ambassadors go, guess what? The usual suspects, most of them are part of the private sector commission. Their wives, they have this ambassador wives club where they go out and they sit and they sit together and they have coffee and they drink wine and they say yes. And then when a Benschop or a Crawford walk in, they duck, they don't, why is he in here? And that's the club they're part of. So because Brent Hart's wife went in a different direction, she started to hang out with black women. She started to do things, go out in communities with black women, everyone in general, not just black women. She wanted to even out the field. But you look at the wives of those ambassadors when they go to Guyana. They don't hang out with nobody else, not the ordinary people, but Brent Hart's wife was hanging out with ordinary women in that country. She wasn't part of that ambassadors club, wives club. No, she wasn't. And so when these ambassadors leave, right, the new one comes, then you have the likes of the Jerry Govaya, because he believes that he's the best pilot Guyana has ever had. That's what he believes, with those planes that may be about 100 or 200 years old, right? So they believe that they must control all these ambassadors who arrive in Guyana, whether the US, whether the Canadian High Commissioner, whether the British High Commissioner. So it's like a gang, like a mafia gang that those guys in Guyana run, that they want to control the ambassadors, those foreign ambassadors. That's exactly what but that's exactly what they do. Anyways, sorry that I went on with those sort of things, but that's just how it is. So when they go and they cuss out people who criticize Sarah Ann Lynch, ambassador, like what the Congressman Jeffries did, the PPP must jump to her defense. Why? Because they love her. But those other ambassadors that I just mentioned, they never loved. They wanted them out of the country, even when their lives were being threatened. J.R. Crawford, what's going on? Sorry that I have to keep you waking.
That's okay. Good night, everyone.
You take the floor, sir. Take the floor. The PPP cussing all those other ambassadors. Mr. Bullen's life and his family's life were threatened. They didn't come to his defense. John Jones, Ambassador John Jones, sent packing. They never came to his defense. Brent Hart, they cuss him out, they abuse him out. Take it over, JR.
Well, that was a clear indication that they are being discriminative, and our Guyanese people should have seen that years and years ago. That the PPP was there. If you can't get in their circle, you're always going to be a bad guy. And it's a sad thing to see that that's the way they want to operate. A little country like this, where all of the Guyanese citizens could have benefited if we had an open-minded government. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it's history, but we must learn from that. And we should make sure that those kind of action never repeats itself, even though history is apt to do so. We are seeing some improvements in the folks that do not subscribe to the PPP logic. And I'm hoping that this continues. And whatever was started there in New York on Sunday, I hope it can transcend to greater heights here, because we need it on Guyanese shore. Yes, it's good that it started abroad, but it should have been done here, because we can't afford to have a government that's openly being discriminative. And hence one of the reasons why we might not have gotten proper international investors over the years. And we don't need discrimination in the 21st century. These are things that should have been buried a long time ago. And the founding fathers, they work together. Unfortunately, we are not seeing, or we are seeing the PPP blatantly refusing to work with the other members of parliament or opposition groups, which is not going to be good for our growth as a nation.
What is your take, back to my original question, and points well taken, that they have been so racist, the PPP, that is Jack Deo and Ramutar and all of them, racist towards those ambassadors that I've mentioned. The first African-American ambassador to Guyana, and the second African-American ambassador, and the other ambassador who happens to have a black wife.
Now, when you look at that trend, it's openly telling you that they don't appreciate a person of African descent, or if you are close to the African community, unless you be a Mark Phillips or a Sam Blinds, then they would accept you. And it's an unfortunate situation that, the PP had that long run, and then they're back in the leadership role for now. The people of Guyana need to band together for us to stop this, because we are portraying an improper image to the international community that we are, we are a racist nation. Hence, a lot of people may not have wanted to invest, so we could have grown further than where we are. And I'm surprised that the United States and the other nations did not step in with these kind of blatant behavior. Let's hope that with these current people in proper positions, that this can be eliminated, so we can have a better country, and we can have a better national image. We don't want to be known that these Guyanese people don't like black people. We want to be having an image that we embrace democracy, and we embrace people of all race, religion, or creed. So these are the things that we are hoping for. That we started it in 2015. It got stolen, and we're hoping that pretty soon we can get back there where we can continue a proper trend and grow as a nation and have respect in the international community.
All right, well said. Let's get to Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, who has been briefed for years about the sort of discriminations in Guyana, racism in Guyana, victimization in Guyana, all under the PPP regime. Every single thing under the PPP regime. He has been briefed for years now. He understands. He's like He's like a Guyanese. Were you surprised when he said that the government of Guyana, or the installed regime, my description, seems to be practicing racism and not treating persons of African descent with the sort of respect that they ought to be treated?
No, I was not surprised because look, going back to the voting that they had to end racism in the world, and when it was noted that we had voted against ending racism, and then there was all this mumble jumble about the wrong vote, whatever the case is. And when you go back, these diplomats and also the foreign relations community for the Western Hemisphere, they study each and every country on a daily basis. Now, when you see this trend that over so many years, Black people are complaining, and then you start to do the investigation, and you're seeing all these killings, the marginalization, the economic opportunities were not given to every Guyanese, but just selective few, and it's clear it was race. Then there are also plans there, but unfortunately they couldn't force their way into implementing a free-flowing democracy because of we are a sovereign nation. So it was there, and they were waiting for an opportunity, and he had all right to call it out, because if you look at what was going on blatantly, it was against the human rights rules and standards. So that is where the PPP got caught, because they left the human rights door open.
All right, it's 48 minutes after 9. J.R. Crawford is with us, and you have a point there, but the PPP seem to be very buzzity, so to speak, very concerned that a senior congressman has described them as racist, something we all know, something most Guyanese know, because that's the action of the PPPC. They have no... Go ahead, sir.
Remember, they had deep cover in Gregory Meeks because of his affiliation, with certain Guyanese people. So they were
Ed Ahmad and the PPP regime and all of this.
Right.
That's public knowledge.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. He had covered a lot of ground back then because he was in a good position then. But now that these things are being blown up, you don't see Meeks anymore. He's hiding.
No, he's not hiding. In fact, we saw Meeks. Congressman Meeks, who is now the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, a powerful position, has met with operatives of the PPP in Queens, New York, his district. He met with Robert Passad. He met with a couple other ding-dongs within the hierarchy of the PPP.
He was much more
active. The PPP was comfortable with that. In fact, Congressman Meeks tweeted that he appreciated all these things of glorifying the PPP, that they're doing such a great job, and they're this and the PPP loves people like Meeks.
Right.
Because they want people to praise them and to gyrate them and to chate them. But when people like Congressman Jeffries, who spoke the truth about them in Guyana, they're upset with that. They cried to the world. They want to hug him now. They want to meet with him now. Go ahead.
Meeks, back in 19 and 20, yes, he was very vocal. If you look at this year, after the information has gotten where things were being exposed, he's a guy that he likes to sacrifice a pawn and keep his reputation clean. Eventually, he'll have to explain all these atrocities during certain periods. And I know it's coming, that he'll have to go before a board, and these information will be brought up, and all these activities that was against one particular race, where he had painted a picture that everything was hunky-dory. So, I mean, what Mr. Jeffries is doing is being honest, being open, and all he wants is a across the board opportunity for every Guyanese to have an opportunity to live a proper life. And I don't see why that couldn't have been on the PPP's agenda. And you would want to know, if people love power so much, it's a simple thing. Treat everybody with respect, afford them opportunities, and you would be in power all the time. Why discriminate? If you discriminate, you make people angry. You're not going to have the power that you're thirsting for. So I can't see the greed and the need for power, but yet you want to discriminate and brutalize and, you know, harm people. For what reason? I don't understand it. It's like they want to be this warlord party. It's not going to happen until they're not realizing that the world has moved so far ahead, and they're stuck in the mud trying to fight a war that's dead. We have internet, we have instantaneous information, we have people are more educated now than then. You can't brainwash the people all the time. You're going to still have some you know, crazy followers, because, you know, like they say, the third of Guyana is mentally handicapped. But you must expect a nation to improve itself. As much as you may stifle the nation, they are going to self-educate themselves, they're going to know right from wrong, and they're going to move on. And that's, you know, the internet has been the PPP's arrow in the back. Because they didn't realize.
It is beginning to show, because most of the people are paying attention to what non-PPP commentators have to say. And you see it by the numbers. When they're on, nobody pays any sort of interest to them. So what they do is
we have a lot of PPP followers on this program, that I can tell you. And there's something that I observed in the last few years, I'm wrong here, is the conversion from Hinduism to Christianity by many East Indians, and that rings a bell.
Well, let me say this to you, JR. I don't want us to go that route, and this is not in no way preventing you from free speech. I don't want people, regardless of their ethnicity, have every right to change whatever to Christianity.
No, you see, you're not allowing me to finish, so you can.
You know, I have a lot of family members who are Indians, and some of
this. No. I have no, sir.
I don't want to go that route.
No. The point I'm trying to bring forward is the freedom that people are starting to enjoy because they're being educated via the internet or travel now. And the reason why I brought it up,
someone switching to Christianity from Hinduism.
No, it has political impact, because the PPP party was heavily based upon a Hindu base and the Muslim. You and I both know it. I mean, come on, I did enough history. And when you're seeing the change of religion, it gives the people a more independent thinking. They're free to choose other areas of interest. Back then, and it happened also in the PNC. Back then, the voters were spoon-fed. Now they're independently thinking what or if I should go, and nobody stops them. You can't really trick people that much anymore. So when you see the cross, change of religion has political impacts, because the religion was always behind politics, and you and I both know it. We have seen what it did in 2016 in the United States.
I tend to share a different view, whilst I respect your view, and in no way that I'm preventing you from making your point in that respect. But I don't want us to go that route.
I understand the point, but I was just
I know of a lot of Hindus who are members of the People's National Congress Reform.
I understand,
right? Because we have Pandit Dinesh Jai Prashad, who's a
no. I understand what I'm saying. I'm talking about the people that were on a railroad track to force to support a political party. If you look at the ethnic composition now of the younger generation, you would understand what I'm saying. Because when you were structured on a certain religious belief, you had to stay within the guidelines, and anybody who stepped out of the religious circle would have been branded. And you and I, lived through that. What I'm saying, people.
But JR, the makeup of the PNC under Forbes Bonham, the makeup of the PNC had so many.
We had a lot of East Indians in very, very key positions who were instrumental in growing PNC. I'm not saying anything about the PNC part. What I'm saying,
they were all practicing Hindus. But again,
would you no. Would you say that the PPP is acting as a cult, or is it acting as a political party?
The PPP, after the demise of Cherry Jagan, became a mafia entity, a criminal entity. Right?
Thank you.
They're not a political party. The PPP is a criminal entity.
That is what I'm trying to bring. That's why some people have drifted away. And I can tell you that because I had first-hand information. And they no longer operate as a political entity. It's a one-man rule. So what you do?
Let me ask you this. You believe that if our Indian brothers and sisters, Guyanese, some might be our relatives also, who are Hindus, because I have a lot who are Hindus, you're saying that if they convert, I just want you to break it down for all of us. You're saying that if they convert from Hinduism to Christianity, they will better understand the political process and would think objectively and start voting outside of the box? Just break it down for me. Go right ahead. People seem to be on your side. They want you to explain. Go right ahead.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, people who have started to change religion have more control over what or who they support. There are times when the church, the mandir, the masjid, they will force you to stay within lines, even though you may disagree with what is ahead. But because you're a member of that holy group, you are going to go against your gut feeling. When you change, you see, Christianity has a lot of different branches. They have many Christians that support the PPP.
Hinduism too.
What I'm saying,
Hinduism has a lot of branches too.
I have Hindu, Muslim, and Christian relatives, very close. I have seen their behavior. And I am not saying that some of our stalwarts who did so much good were not Muslims, were not Hindu. What I'm saying is the lower end of our Guyanese people. When you're in that group, you're herded to go in one direction. It's like a cattle drive. You can't come out of line. You're going to be pushed back in line. Even though you may thirst for something, but you can't. You have to stay in the line. And that's what people are more free to choose whatever they want. And if you look at the 20s and 30s generation now, you're going to see. And most of our racism now is coming people that are indoctrinated in the mid-30s and up and going up to the 60s. But if you look at the younger generation, they are more open-minded to different things or different people. And the younger generation are more interested in what their future holds for them, as per the older ones who blindly support the regime that has been hurting them, and then they mumble underneath saying, we are punishing, but we can't talk. I've seen it, I've heard it. But now we are having people that are making choices. Look at the difference. Look at Pandit Ubraj. You mentioned Dino, Mr. Daniel Siram, Ganesh Mahipal. They're independent-minded people who choose where to support, who to support, or what to do. They are not being herded or forced to say, I'm an East Indian, I'm going to stay with the PPP. Mark Phillips, he's black, he don't support the coalition. He supported PP for whatever reason. He does it. He did it. I'm not mad with him for crossing. That's his choice. But what I'm saying, the low end people, they were always driven in like a cattle drive. Now they're having the opportunity to choose or make a difference in our political arena now. So they can go wherever they want. Same with the Amerindians. They were hoarded for a period of time. Now they're seeing the difference because they're getting more education through the internet. So they're now open-minded to choose whoever they want to support. I'm not saying that for you to be an independent thinker, you must have to leave your religion. No, because then the same could be said of Christianity. So don't try to corner me with that kind of question, my friend. I'm just pointing out what some people were able to change their behavior after they switch religion. Bring it on.
So when they changed their religion and they joined the PNC?
No, they don't. They may not have joined the party, but they're independent thinkers. They may cast a vote that would upend a seat or not. But now that they know that their vote is going to be on a racial basis, they will.
And you basically, I'm just trying to, again, I attended the University of IFLAT. Again, I want you to break it down, simplify it, that they become more independent thinking once they switch their religion. They think differently. I just want to get that point clear from you.
When you look at people and you listen to them and you look at their backgrounds, you will see the difference. People may not want to agree, but I know what it is. I am married to it, so I know I've seen it in front of my eyes. And it's not once, both of my marriage. I don't need to go all around. I could tell you what it is. I look at my mother. Some of our siblings were Hindus. She was a Christian. So I mean, people may get offended, some religious not, but that's the fact. If you look at it, why do you think the PPP lost so much support base? You and I know back in the 80s how many churches and mandirs and everything was there, and look at it now. Look at the difference. Hence the reason. Did you believe that PPP actually got 233,000 votes? Did you? I'm asking a question, Mark. Mark, are you still with us?
Sorry about that. Technical problems at our end here. I must apologize. Look, it is not that I don't understand what GR is saying, the points GR has made. However, having read the Bhagwan Gita and the Bible and the Quran and everything inside out from back to front, having grown up also in a mixture of a home of Hindu and Christianity, I understand. It is not that I don't understand. But one of the things that I don't get involved in is talks about religion, because there are a lot of people who feel that Christianity, that when people change and they become Christians or whatever, that they, and I'm not saying this is what JR is saying, because that is what people did to our ancestors. They flipped the script on us. Those are our African ancestors who were enslaved, they were beaten and dragged to all parts of the world. They didn't subscribe to Christianity, but Christianity was forced upon them so that they can submit themselves to Massa. And if you notice, a lot of things, maybe Christianity is what got our ancestors to be enslaved for 400 plus years, because they just believed in what Massa told them. Oh, forgive Massa. Why do you think that Black folks are the best at forgiving? Oh, I forgive JR. Oh, I forgive that person. Oh, I forgive this, because of Christianity, right? And so that's my opinion. So one of the things I do not get involved in, as a matter of choice, is religion. I do believe that people have, because if you look at if you look at Hinduism and how it started by the prince, if you look at Hinduism and if you look at Africanism, how our African ancestors practiced their religion, there are so many similarities in Hinduism and how our African ancestors practiced, from the beating of the drums, from all sorts of different things, the lighting and the worshiping of the moons and whatever. Some of you Christians may disagree with me on that, but it happens. There are lots of similarities between Hinduism and how our ancestors practiced out in Africa.
Mark.
Voodoo and all these sort of things. But when our Hindu brothers and sisters light up and do up and do their stuff, it is considered their religion. All of us jump up and we respect it. Of course, we should. But when a Black man or a Black woman does the same thing, you know what they call it? Obia. Obia. Right? You remember at Alnis Waterside Dam, another lady we used to call she Mother Kali, I believe.
Kateri.
Mother Kateri.
Mark.
All of us used to call her Obia, Obia this and Obia that.
Mark.
Right?
Can you touch a little bit on the Sidi tribes of India?
Well, you're talking about those original Africans.
Yes.
Yeah. But let us get
tell me how much value or what they have in the Indian government today after 800 years living in there. Just tell the nation.
Well, they're still out in India. There are over 500,000. 500,000 of them.
Your volume is too low there, buddy. I could hardly hear you.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. 500,000 of them, the original folks of India. Black folks. Why do you think in northern India and old? But I think we are missing the point. Maybe I have misunderstood where you were coming from.
You might have misunderstood what I'm saying.
And so, yeah.
The uneducated folks or the lesser educated folks, they were not allowed to make free choices. And you know that there was Munir Khan and somebody else who was responsible for the two facts in the PPP in the early days, right? Munir Khan died a couple of years ago in Florida. I can't recall the other guy who was responsible for the votes. But if you look at the trend, and if you think I'm wrong, why would you have, yes, when there's a change of government, you have political appointees that will have to be out of the job. But there are so many more people who are pushed out based upon race when their qualifications were there, and their replacement doesn't have quarter of the qualifications. So what behavior is the current administration showing? So again, you come back, they're thinking with, you know what, if you're not this, you cannot have it. Is that the right thing? No. And eventually, if we allow this behavior to continue, we'll have a violent nation, and innocent people are going to get hurt because nobody will stop to think that this person is an open-minded or honest person, they will just look at a person and just attack them because, unruly group becomes a mob. A mob doesn't go by rules. And all because a selective few has been brutalizing the nation for their personal gains, while 90% of the nation are going to eventually suffer.
So traveling outside of villages and communities, going to other geographic locations and so forth, like migrating to the US, to Canada, UK, and even with, of course, now the emergence of internet, social media, and so forth, you do believe, and this is what you're saying, that it opens the minds of people. They get to
It does a lot, because if you look at the interracial marriage percentage then to now, that speaks volume. Need I say more? Look what happens when people from abroad here who had no schooling goes to a Canada or in England or the United States. They elevate themselves by educating themselves, and they have to mix with other people that ordinarily they wouldn't have done if they were here. So, I can't be wrong with what I'm seeing every day, and everybody else is seeing it. What this government used to do and what they're doing is still aligning themselves. If you're going to be a soup drinker, we don't care how you look. As long as you drink the soup, you're going to get by. That's an unfortunate situation. What gets me is, if you want the power, there's one simple way to be in power forever. Treat the people with respect and care, and you will always be there. Look at Boutassi. They voted him out, they said, democratically. Now the people are crying for Boutassi again. Because as much as he may be what? He took care of the less fortunate. And all this current government had to do when they got into office, under so much cloud, we all know what happened, was to show respect for the people and do not go and trample on the rights of every Guyanese because they do not subscribe to your party rules. But instead of that, they thumb their nose at everything humanitarian and international laws, and they started to do all this crazy stuff. So they're in essence saying that the word democracy is only for showboating. It's not going to operate here as long as we have power.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, GR. I know we have lots of friends, and at least in my case, in your case, some relatives in Queens also, most of whom are of Indian descent. Do you think that their thinking, for the most part, have changed from, like, say, 25, 30 years ago in the villages under quarantine?
Definitely, many have changed. But 2 days ago, I had to up one of our classmates for making racial remarks when he benefits so much under the coalition, but he didn't have the nerve to be an honest person. So when I had to expose him on a public forum, and, he admitted it. He was wrong. And I told him straight up, I said, if you're going to be racist, I don't want nothing to do with you. Because I know of everything that he got and how he got it under the coalition. Legal, mind you, but he was crying that under the PPP, he wasn't getting anything. But you see how, when it's deep-rooted, you can't change. It's only death can change some of these folks. We all know that. But kudos to the people who are strong enough to look elsewhere and said, you know what? What we were doing wasn't beneficial, or it was morally wrong, and they step away. They may abstain from the polling station, but, at least they admit that the course of travel was not the right course in the human race. The coalition, on the other hand, it's very inclusive, and it does not bring in people just because to plug and show a balance. Look at our parliamentary makeup. It tells you right there and then. We all hammer Mr. Granger for some things that he could have done differently. including, myself and you and everybody else. But look at the parliamentary group that he put forward there. It's a representation of Guyana, not a representation of a political party. And that's where our differences are. We open the box. We are open to everything. I mean, we would sing and dance Indian music. We celebrate Indian holidays. Some folks on the other side, that's them holiday, and they push it off. But if you're a Guyanese, we're a multicultural nation. We must love each other. And I mean, we are going to have disagreements with people of our texture or something different. It happens. But we as a nation needs to learn to embrace and respect each other. And we must take care of each other, regardless if your hair is curly or straight, or in your case, bald. But we are not doing it. We are being forced to take care of our own people. That thing is a cancer. Our own people is every Guyanese in this country. And that is what the PPP does not want to do. And that's why they are going to end up pushing this nation into violence. And the violence, when it breaks out to get through democracy, innocent people are going to get hurt. And the people who are going to make the violence come, they don't care that the innocent followers are getting hurt, because they've already been brainwashed, and they will use that as a tool to say, look what the opposition did to us. But they are the ones who are laying the groundwork for a violent situation to come. I mean, look at your parents and my parents at whom you brought up. We were two different worlds coming together. And my parents faced, and a lot of parents faced, racism from their home as well as the man's home. But they came together and they forged ahead because they were independent, strong-minded people, and they went ahead. They didn't care anything what happened. And that's why you have to give people who cross religious lines a lot of credit for doing so. It opens a lot of doors. So I may be wrong. I may offend some viewers, but this is me. This is how I see it. I grew up in it. I'm part of it. And you can't take that away from me. Because I'm a product of interracial and religious upbringing. So I know of it.
All right, J.R. Crawford here for us this evening. I have heard arguments to the effect, whilst not disagreeing with you and your opinion, mind you, I know a lot of Muslim brothers and sisters, not just in Guyana, but outside of Guyana also. And that is why when religious talks come up, it depends on which religion you're in, or whether Christian denomination and so forth, and Catholicism or Hinduism. In Catholicism, they worship practically, Hinduism has a goddess by the name of Mother Kali. Catholicism also has the same goddess, Mother Kali. But the point that I'm making is, in Christianity, there are different denominations, as we all know it. Part of my upbringing had to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. And a lot of younger folks within the Kingdom Hall, they felt that the only time that they get to see and understand things differently is when they walk away from the Kingdom Hall. Now, I'm not knocking Jehovah's Witnesses. I grew up in the Kingdom Hall. But I'm just giving you another example. There are some Hindu relatives of mine, some of them from Alnis, and you know them, and some other places. They have converted to Christianity. Some of them have changed in their thinking. Some of them have not changed in their thinking. But coming out from Hinduism, they get to see the world from a different perspective, just like Jehovah's Witnesses or other denominations of Christianity. In Islam, depends on which sect, whether you're Sunni or whatever you are practicing. some converted to Christianity, and they tend to see things differently as well. And so the point I was trying to make in the beginning, whilst I allowed you to go ahead with your opinion, is that it all depends on what religion you're part of. That when you walk away from that religion, you are of the belief, and maybe rightly so, not you personally, that it opens your thinking. They have people who converted from Rastafarism, even though that has not been classified originally as a religion, but I respect Rastafarians. They get some Rastas, when they bald the head and they turn bald head, they said they get to think differently. And so before we close, I just wanted to make that point explicitly clear, that it is not confined to Hinduism, that when they convert to Christianity or whatever else, they tend to think independently or different. It applies to all other religions, including the Jews. All
Mark,
religion. Your closing remarks before
I pointed out that Hindu cross for a reason. If you look at the composition of the ruling entity now, and look at the troubles, where is it coming from? You will see what I'm talking about. And I would not be afraid to talk about religion. Yes, Christianity could be corrupt, as well as any other religion. But we use whatever religion we have at our disposal for betterment. There may be misleading texts in the religious books, but our job as human beings is to use whatever platform we are on to be a better person for tomorrow. Not to discriminate, not to marginalize because, we are a little bit more wealthy, or our skin tone is lighter, or our hair is longer. No. We must judge people from what comes out of their mouth or their actions towards the weak or the suffering. Not to glorify because of big house or money. And that's what happens here in our country. People could get very, very powerful by ill-gotten gains, and they're glorified. And the dignified person who can walk around with a rubber slippers and have the wealth of goodness to share, no one looks at that person's direction. Because we are in the caste system. And right now, the Africans are in as the untouchables. You may disagree with me, as you've been doing tonight, but fine. You tell me where people who do not subscribe to one political party have an opportunity to be free thinking and to be able to earn a living at a respectable manner. And the PPP has clearly shown it. It was a total different party under Dr. Jagan, because that PPP helped to build this country, because they sought inclusive behavior. Now things have gone about money and suppression. And they love to be going after people who don't subscribe to their agenda. And one of these days, they are going to go after the wrong person. Nobody in Guyana wants a person that speaks his mind. You become an outcast. Fine. But someday somebody is going to go after the wrong person. And all hell will break loose. And maybe that's when we'll finally get a democratic government to operate on a level where every single Guyanese are respected, are cared for under the Constitution that guarantees that right. Until then, we are looking at all the push and the plugs and the kicks. Somewhere along the line, like you mentioned, the behavior towards the US ambassadors of certain ethnicity tells you that there is no respect for that particular race. What more do you want? And why the 5 years of the coalition government there, we saw total respect of everybody. And mind you, under the coalition, the opposition supporters benefited more than the coalition based. It's a fact that the coalition never fully took care of their base. They took care of everybody, and the benefit goes. You could go around if you come in the ground guy, and they'll tell you we got more benefit than Granger supporters. They will tell you over and over. The people must come out there and stand up and say, you know what? We have screwed around. We have screwed up. We are going to start respecting every citizen across the board. But no, they can't do that because that is not in their mantra. Their mantra is to create a caste system or pyramid system, as you may want to call it. And they're going to be Lord and mighty up there, and the untouchables are going to be down below. It cannot happen in the 21st century anymore. The days for those kind of behavior is long gone. India may be able to do it because it's such a huge nation, and they suppress millions of people. But tell me, child labor, where does it operate? China, India, Indonesia, Afghanistan. Why? Look at the structures as compared to those things. We don't have those things here. But what they want to put you, kick you out of job, give you no security, put you under financial stress, is either you thief and we shoot you, or you go mad. Is that what we want for this country? Is that what a government of a multicultural country is going to be? Their behavior goes against our coat of arms. The same people that are talking and doing all these wrong things were educated under Forbes Burnham initiative, where we had the best education standard under Burnham. Yet they turned back and said he was a dictator. Why would a dictator educate his masses, knowing that if you educate them, they're going to form a resistance if they don't subscribe to you? How was he labeled a dictator? And the PPP could not have continued the suppression and the division and the disrespect towards people of African descent if they didn't have help, mind you. So there are other players who are suppressing some of the Guyanese people. We have to learn to identify who's gotten our interests or who are only here for a jolly good time because of our natural resource wealth. But we have a way of skinning our teeth. And hence the reason why I've asked the question numerous times, didn't the coalition in office made any friends? And it seems like they didn't. And now you see why. So this serves as a bell to our Guyanese people that our democracy that we are searching for will have to come from inside and not outside, because not too many guys out there would be happy to see us survive or grow as a nation. So we have to do it from inside.
Explain when you mean inside. Explain.
Pardon me?
Explain to our listeners when you say the democracy that we're looking for.
Well, there's a lot of people jumping up about the rally in New York. No, we need a rally here. The people who are fighting for a leadership position in this country must be able to do it here. The problem is not in Brooklyn, New York. The problem is in Guyana. The discrimination, the theft, the murders all are happening here. We need to have it here. Why not organize here? If you are going to want to lead politically, you must be able to sacrifice right here. Don't be afraid of a bullet. Go out and do it. Or if you know you're going to be afraid, step up the line and let somebody else who's going to be there for the people, let them take the mantle. But we are seeing too much showboating, opportunists. We are seeing things where people are just showing up for photo ops. We are seeing people saying, hey, they got hundreds of people on the ground. Where? We need to be truthful to the people. You know for a fact the coalition is for every Guyanese, so we wouldn't discriminate. Mind you, I'm not looking for a position or a job. as much as I am out here speaking for the common person, yes, I'm taking my discrimination in stride up to a point. Our leaders need to be able to go on the ground instead of walking around with a chip on their shoulder or talking crap within themselves. They need to, if you're going to go out there, you're going to be a leader 365 days a year. You're working for the people. So you must be out there. We must have a better attitude when people approach us. We must be available to our constituents. But these are things that they need to play it on an everyday basis. But they're doing it today and then they fall asleep for 2 months and then they come. You don't have democracy by lackadaisical effort, and democracy doesn't come with peace. We all know that. If something is handed to you on a platter, something is wrong with it. So we as a nation, we have to stand up and fight for a level playing field and also hold our leaders accountable. Just like how we are grumbling about the PPP, we must also grumble with our coalition members. But mind you, the PPP has gone too far, and it's unfortunate, or sometimes I'm not even surprised, that the international community has not seen it as an important human rights issue to levy sanctions or pay the PPP a visit for Guyanese to be treated as equal. Something is wrong somewhere, because the major players, if you look at where they're involved in, we are not getting anything out of those sectors. You know, 350 something $million of Gaisuku contract for machinery.
Tractor machines.
Tell me in the name of Jesus, what are they going to do with it? KN was supposed to start 2 weeks ago. It will start in September. Probably 9 weeks. What's going to happen with our security forces when they're stressed out after the 9 weeks? People stealing. There's no plan. They don't care. They care about the 10%. All these massive contracts have been given out. You get all these little insultive grants to people. You don't want to work with the opposition to put the people's welfare at the front burner. The speaker throws out or says certain notions are not important because it was not brought up by the ruling party, but because it was brought by the opposition. So you're going to discriminate a whole group of people because of your narrow-mindedness or your vindictiveness. These are things that should have been brought up to the international community. Look at these issues that we want to take care of, COVID and all these things. And here the party and the speaker also involved, which is a stool pigeon. They don't see it as an important point. So what are you telling the nation? We don't have friends, the coalition.
Would you start a group on the quarantine where you are, right there in Guyana, sensitize the people, bring the people out, let them know that their rights, rightfully so, are being violated, stand up and say enough is enough? Will you do that as a community leader?
There are enough groups here, but they do not take the focus. I would not go and start another groups because I'll end up just like all the little political parties around. Every 2 feet is the political. They have enough group here. They need to keep the focus there. These MPs and all the other senior echelons there, they need to come out and be on the ground. You can't want to be the focal point of a political party, but you're not there on the ground every day. Politics is a daily routine. It's a job. You're hired by the people, but it's reversed in our country.
Some of them don't think so, Mr. Crawford. Some of them don't think so at all. But and remember, I never thought, and I never saw myself as a politician when I was beating the streets and confronting the brutal regime. My simple question to you is, we all understand most of the politicians or the MPs that they have are not going to bell the cat. They have folks who are talking outside of Guyana who will not return to Guyana to bell the cat. Some have not returned to Guyana in 30, 40 years. So by that, they do not understand the mood of the people on the ground. I get your point. Now, my question to you is, you are there in Guyana. You see the frustrations of the people, especially on the quarantine. You know that they're being given a 6 for a 9 by this corrupt, racist regime. Will you start something out on the quarantine?
I would not start a group, but I will go out there. I can give the coalition about 2 or 3 days a week because of my responsibilities. I'm not going to give up my responsibilities to run around the place. As I said, I'm not looking for a position. I don't need anything from any government, this one or the one before. What I want is for the people of this country to be treated equally. I will not be here for too long, so I'm not going to tie myself up here and end up an old man fighting a war. I don't have any any biological connections anymore here, so hence my reason not to be tying myself down, if you know what I mean.
Your brother Ryan Crawford is still there.
No, he's an adult. My children and grandchildren are all overseas. My brother's, he's well off. I mean, the guy is good. I have to seek other things from my generation to go on. I don't have anybody else here. You know, we're just 2 kids.
I hear you.
But I would not form a group. No, I wouldn't do it. There are groups that I would go into if they ask me, if they're interested in my help. Yes, I will help anywhere in the country. But the coalition needs to step it up, because if we don't take care of our citizens, we're going to lose more than that, because our citizens are our most important asset, more than the oil, more than the timber, more than the gold.
Well said. Well said. Since you were on that winning track, it kind of like reminds me of Penelope and Regal Steel. Those who know, Penelope is ahead, Regal Steel is behind. I accept that you have made a lot of sense tonight, and not that you haven't in previous times. With slight disagreements with you, yes. But unlike some other people, I give people a chance to talk, because I don't want nobody pull a bino on me. All right.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No, we have come way back.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. People want to have you back. You will be back sometime early next year.
Okay, no problem.
But let me ask you this, though, and you are correct. One of the things that I agree with you on is that the coalition seemed to have, and quite obviously they did, bent way too backward for opposition supporters. But one of the things that David Granger as president did is that being president of a country, you've got to be the president of all of the people. And so yes, I agree with you and others who have said that in a lot of instances, the coalition neglected its own support base and went outside. But their justification for that was that they've got to be the president for all Guyana. I can't disagree with that, but I also get your point that this racist PPP regime would go out more into their communities. Whilst they're not doing much, mind you, they're pretending they're working into their own communities in order to keep them intact. However,
that's their strategy. They'll go there, they'll show up when they get a disgruntled group, and they'll sweet talk them, and they go on. Yet they're not going to give the benefit. But unlike the coalition, they some place they never return to, and that is, you know, it's disturbing.
Has taken its supporters for granted for too long. The PNC.
Oh, yes.
The PPP has also taken its supporters for granted too long. That is why we ended up with a minority government in 2011. And the support base of the PPP is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Hence their reason into
migration and freedom to think.
Yeah. Your closing remarks, Mr. J.R. Crawford, before we go.
Look, Mark, I hope within, a short time that either the PPP is going to be removed from office, and those that are culpable will face the music. And I'm hoping that the opposition turns its game up about 10 notches, because we are playing reactionary politics. It can't happen. This is not the Wild West. They need to be on the ball, and they have to stop walking with chips on their shoulders. Don't hate somebody because they speak the truth and it offends you. If you don't take criticism, you're not going to improve. And if somebody don't critique you, you're not going to improve. There are some of us that are there for opportunity, and some of us are there for the people. I'm not saying on the PPP end they may not have people who are workable, but their hands may be tied because of the leader that they have. We don't know about it. From all indication, people are saying, I was told to do this and I was told to do that. Anyway, the opposition needs to up its game, and they still must address if they made friends in the international community. I've never seen a group of people suffer so much to have help or to push forward an agenda. I mean, you and Rick Ford and the others in the international community, thank God for you guys. There isn't a radio station that the coalition folks have, a television station. It begs to wonder, what were they thinking? Are these people, running around corners? Where was the vision that we need this? Implement certain programs, all these things. How are you going to educate the masses? Improve certain things. I can't understand what has happened to the coalition when they got in there. Some of them have gotten too big for their britches. They need to come and start to work. And, like I said, Field and Sing helped Foss Burnham a lot in the early days. We need to start to judge people individually, not as a group, but we have to be able to spread the blanket for all Guyanese. People are hurting for good leaderships. They need honest people. They don't need vindictive people. We do have some that is similar traits to the leader of the current administration. We don't need those kind of leadership. We need people that will see Guyanese as Guyanese, no Indian or Black or Portuguese or Amerindian. Because at the end of the day, all our profits are being siphoned out the back door, and our citizens are left wanting when we could produce so much more intellectually good people. But because of our racism in this country, people are not given the opportunity to grow or to educate themselves. We don't have jobs here, but yet we can't contract our high school graduates with a 4-year education and a 5-year repayment plan that you must come back and serve your country. So we'll have less brain drain and more educated people. Why can't they have a plan for it? You could even send them in the state of Mississippi, a low cost of living state, and have a wonderful education. But we can't do that. But we will have $356 million to buy machinery so we can steal it out and we can invest in our children. Why can't we have these plans? The estates are there with Kane, all this nonsense, but Kane, one of the PPP ministers was saying Kane was so instrumental in our society and all the socio-economic BS. Why can't we have cash crops? Why can't we contract Central America, Caribbean, and North American markets? Why do people have to be chopping cane, fetching these bundles, inhaling all these dirty dust? Look at the cane cutters. They have aged 25 years or more. Why can't we be the breadbasket of the Caribbean? Mr. Granger had that notion. Why can't we convert our sugar lands to cash crops? Plus, we can control so much of the fishing industry because we have all the waterways that are dug already that we can convert into fishing, freshwater fish. The same cane cutters and all these things will have reduced workload, but they'll earn more money across the board. You can give them employment for 11 months a year. We are not having dialogues, or I don't know if they need all these feasibility studies, hundreds of millions of dollars, to worry about how to control the food market. Food will always put you where you want to go. The Caribbean don't have land. We have it. We start with the Caribbean first. Then we could branch our way out to Central America and then eventually North America. Why can't we work together as a nation? I don't know. Maybe this country needs political leaders must be mixed breed and not single bred people. Maybe then you'll have more inclusion, because you look at both sides of the party, one race. We don't have that today. We have, the mixed breed is going to overtake the two major ethnic groups within the next 10 years. We don't have proper representation. We have all these, touching on something, humanism and Amerindian. All this nonsense going on in the Amerindian community, and you don't hear the guy comes out and say anything. I do hope that they see that they were being played for fools and their interests is not being taken care of, because the selective few must get rich and live the high life. We need to start to rebrand the coalition as a party or a group for the common person. And we must work that way every single day, not periodically. And the old folks that have been in the game, they need to step back and have younger generations come up to the front, be the advisors, but don't be the domineering types. In that way, we'll stand a chance to compete with, a Trinidad or a Jamaica or Barbados. But until then, as long as we play the race game, we're always going to fight. 90 going to suffer, 10 is going to get it. And that's, it's a sad situation. I'm home here, yes, by force, but I could have stayed here if this was a place to enjoy. But what can you do here? Drink rum?
I got your point, and a lot of the things that you have said, sentiments expressed, people have shared them over time. I'm glad that you've reminded a lot of our listeners about that. But one of the points I wish to make before we go, though, Mr. Crawford, is that the vision for the sugar industry in terms of introducing the sugar workers to other types of jobs, I believe the coalition should be given credit for that. But what the PPP wants to do is to keep those sugar harvesters in that little cage, so to speak, so that they cannot come out. And once they continue to control those sugar workers, continue to control their thinking, they believe that based on that sort of control, they will be able to vote for them every time around. Hence the reason why the coalition, the PPP is always saying that the coalition meant bad for sugar workers. They feel, the PPP that is, that if they continue to say that, then they will turn their minds away from the coalition. But as you have said in the beginning, though, with social media and modern times and so forth, people stepping out of the box, they're able to think differently. They're able to think independently. And I do get your point. And I just want to reiterate that a lot of sugar workers, sugar harvesters, are independent thinkers. Don't think for a moment that they don't know that the PPP is basically pakuing them. Don't think for a moment that they don't know that the PPP is using them. Well, at least a lot of them do by now. Don't think that they don't know that it is the PPP who destroyed the sugar industry, shutting down the estates and putting the sugar industry in the ICU, the intensive care unit, prior to the coalition taking over. And it is the coalition who has to take the credit for rescuing, saving, and reviving even a dead sugar industry. Why? Because maybe they weren't that brave to make that swift political move to say to the sugar workers, this can't work. Hundreds of billions of dollars being pumped into the sugar industry that is not producing, that is not showing the sort of production that we should. So In essence, the taxpayers of that country, they are now faced with the burden of treating the sugar industry as though, and sugar workers as, and I say this word without, it might be controversial, as welfare recipients, because sugar is dead. We
That's what
all
it is.
know that. It is dead. One other quick question. I know you spoke about the leadership of the coalition. They need to do more. They need to do a heck lot more. That is a fact. We haven't been hearing about their Congress recently, maybe for good reasons, because they shouldn't be fighting and throwing their dirty linens out in public. But what is your take on Aubrey Norton for leadership?
Inconclusive at the moment.
I got you, JR. JR and I go 40 years back, man, as little boys on the quarantine. I'll just leave that as
48 years.
that was long time, bro. Long time. A lot of people may not know this. Long time. And I'm glad that you share your time this evening with us, to be able to speak your mind.
Man,
This is
I wish I could come on a program to celebrate, a nation that's showing togetherness, rather than have to be pointing fingers at this and that. It's not a sad thing. We had so much fun back then, and look at where we are today.
Look at where we are, indeed. Those were very good days. We're getting to be old men now. But one of the things I want to thank you, though, JR, that this is a platform, 107.1 FM, where people are free to come and speak their minds. That's democracy.
Well, that's what the country should be like.
Yeah, there are things that we don't agree on everything.
No, if we agree on everything, then we'll be a boring nation. The trick is you can disagree and you could discuss, but you don't have to be irate.
Exactly. And that is what
it shows maturity.
Yeah. But like I've said, this is a platform where I sit and I allow people to voice their opinions. I don't shut them down. I don't cut them off. I sit, whether it's a J.R. Crawford, whether it's a Aubrey Norton, whether it's a David Granger, whoever it is, they have that opportunity. And that is why we at 107.1 FM, we realize, and you've touched a point, that the coalition has failed. Failed in an area, mind you, in one particular area, not failed totally, because they did a heck of a lot of good things. 10 times better than the PPP 20-something years in office. But they didn't set themselves right in terms of even to have a radio station or a television station or even a newspaper. But one of the things we have recognized here at 107.1, the importance of that, the importance of the message, the importance of media. And this radio station is dedicated to the people of Guyana. And so the opposition APNU AFC coalition, they have a platform. They have been using this platform for free, absolutely free.
Well, that shouldn't be the case.
All of them,
and that is something it shouldn't be tolerated. As much as we're there for the democracy of this country, it costs us money to keep it going.
Some of them, a lot of them, or most of them in the coalition don't know that. They think it operates with water.
Well, that's the type of people that we cannot have as leaders, because you're being self-centered and you don't care about the medium that you're using to ascend to certain positions. That's being, selfish.
We'll talk about that.
And disrespectful to be.
Yeah, absolutely. J.R. Crawford, when you get you walk away the winner this evening in this interaction. The interaction.
No, this is not a winning situation, my friend. When we have respect and democracy for all Guyanese, that's when we all win. This is not about winning, sir. This is about looking at your brothers and sisters, regardless of ethnic composition, and seeing that the sufferment is not there anymore. That is what you want. A happy nation is a healthy nation.
On this station, or to bring guests on this program, is not to show that, or to beat up on my guests, or to feel that I'm brighter, or I'm going to. No, your opinions matter. Our guest
Yes,
opinions
every little
matter.
one.
Sometimes I may get it wrong, and my guest gets it right. At the end of the day, I've been looking at the comments, and I must say that J.R. Crawford, you walked away with a trophy tonight. And because
I'm not looking for trophy, my brother.
Because of that, you will be back on Friday. So
Friday?
People, yeah, you will be back on Friday. Or is it
I just got to arrange my work.
Your drinking day. You
no, I hardly been drinking these days, man.
You best stop.
It's so hard, you can't afford to drink.
You best stop. Anyways, we've got to go. Namaste.
Namaste.
Salam alaikum.
Don't get me all this tangled up, man. The book is in there.
Salam. All right.
Your uncle left the books here. I have them all here.
I know. Your father was a great man. JR, let's do something like what Chris Cuomo and what is it? Dan Lemon do. JR, I love you, man.
I love you, Mark. But don't put on the lipstick, on the earrings.
God bless you guys. We love you too. Have a great
good night, everyone.
Night. I will see you guys back tomorrow. JR, continue to keep safe, my friend. God bless you.
You too, my brother. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much. JR and I go way back. From Alnis Village to Queens, New York, way back. He's a nice guy. Nice guy. All right. I've noticed some of you saying that maybe I should invite Philip Bino on the show. If Philip Bino is listening, there is an open invitation for Philip Bino. He will come here. You will get that opportunity to express himself 100%. But before we go, let me just remind people of what has happened to a man who owns a security firm in Guyana, Mr. George Gomes. 2,000 plus workers, most of them will be sent on the breadline. Again, because of a racist PPP regime who does not want to, and they are discriminating against him. They are not giving him ads that he should get at all. They are not giving him ads. And that's a sad thing. Very, very sad thing. So George Gomes, if you're watching, be strong, my friend. Be strong. Apart from being racist, this is the sort of things the PPP do. Look at what they did to me. Look at my lips. Look, the other one at the bottom there, that's Sharon Duncan. The guy on the left of the screen with that red earring, that is Rickford Burke. So this is what the PPP does, right? They can't do anything good, but mind you, they got me looking all sweet, all lovely. Look at Burke. Oh, sweet Burke. Look at him. Look at Sharon. Oh, Sharon. Oh, look at that darling. Look at Sharon. Oh, look at those sweet beauties out. But on a serious note, that is what the PPP does. They are so fixated on these sort of things. Seriously. It's a form of distraction, but I see it as humor. I laugh at it. I don't mind. They got me looking all sweet and sexy. Maybe after this program, I just go straight to the cathedral and I'll get enough money to pay off for my radio station license. Oh, yes. Hello, honey. Oh, gosh. But then again, oh, my gosh. Hey, don't you guys just love Guyana, right? Mother hen. I'll be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. God bless you all. And God bless our beautiful country. Continue to be safe. Wear your mask and practice your social distance. Bye-bye.
It's hard to be at peace with the ones who are so discard. It's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who say them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. I never wanted take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause. And go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them. Give me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them. Kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. You tell me if you stand firm, cause every little plan you have a confirm. I know them evil plan turn. In a darkness, me a the long term. So help me if you deal with the ones that who said them love me when them really don't. Jesus, help me if you deal with the fans them. Kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them. Kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them.